the Phrozen ARCO FDM 3D printer. Let's give it a review.
Biff, pow, zap, clunk, clunk, ouchie.
Hey guys. Phrozen has had a new baby, and it's a very big boy with the potential to make a real splash. Known almost exclusively for their resin printers, Phrozen surprised the 3D printing world when they announced their first ever FDM machine. And even more surprisingly, they didn't play it safe. Make no mistake, they haven't tiptoed into the FDM arena. They've marched in a young upstart who's ambitious, heavily armoured, and very clearly eyeing the crown. In its basic form, it's a large, stable CoreXY frame with a 300mm cubed build volume, ideal for big projects and tall prints. You can add an optional enclosure to help keep out the dust and tame the noise. And there's also the optional Chroma Kit, which brings multicolour capability into the mix. On paper, it's a high-speed printer built with features we would normally see on higher-tier machines, beginning with a completely fixed bed, where only the gantry moves. That's quite uncommon at this price point, and gives the ARCO a naturally stable foundation, which is particularly useful on tall prints where moving bed designs often struggle with wobble, ringing and ghosting. Such stability lends itself to very high speeds. The ARCO uses larger extrusion gears for better grip and more consistent filament feed, which should help with faster extrusion. It also supports high flow nozzles, and no, these aren't gimmicks. They're deliberate choices for high speed, high volume work. Another unusual feature is the heat pipe cooling system. Most FDM printers rely on a simple heatsink and fan, but the ARCO uses an actual heat pipe like we typically see in a laptop or GPU. We can certainly see here how Phrozen's hardware choices are really trying to make a statement. The printer runs on Clipper, a modern firmware that uses a more powerful external processor to handle all the heavy calculations instead of relying on the printer's tiny mainboard. It's a much more flexible and powerful system than the older Marlin setups. It has a great touchscreen with a friendly and simple user interface, and this adds considerable controllability. Whilst printing, you can amend bed and nozzle temperatures, which is a nice touch. You can also alter the printing speeds. As stated, there's a very unfortunately named Enclosure kit, the Pentashield, which should not be confused with Panty Shields, which personally I'll not be reviewing on this channel. The paper assembly instructions are pretty weak, but as with all things ARCO, there's much more comprehensive and easy to understand videos available on Phrozen's YouTube channel. It's an impressive kit with a strong hinged lid that helps stabilise temperatures for more reliable printing. It also has a built-in activated carbon filter that helps eliminate odours. The Chroma Kit turns the ARCO into a multicolour machine by adding a dedicated feed and drying system for up to 4 filament spools, which is expandable to 8. On the smart control side, the Chroma Kit brings filament runout detection, automatic spool switching when a reel runs low, and remote monitoring via the slicer thanks to a built-in camera. It's a nice, easy to install system. When it comes to slicers, Phrozen has an adapted version of the ever-popular Orca system. Phrozen has also created their own slicer called Pixup, which, from what I've seen, is an easy enough to use, well put together chunk of software. But theory and paper stats are all well and good. What we really need to know is how does it print? As many of you may know, I recently launched my first Kickstarter, the Tower of Portals, a 7-level FDM project. Right now, the ARCO gives me the perfect opportunity to test and retest every part of it for fit and finish. So quite honestly, that's a fair bit of pressure to put on old Phrozen, because you can bet I'm going to be looking at every print with a critical eye. I used all different brands and colours of PLA that I simply had lying around, and I stuck with the standard nozzle, standard layer height, and the slicer's generic PLA settings. I started with the ARCO in its basic form, and it genuinely impressed me. The detail was there, and the printing was as easy as I could have hoped for it to be. At one point, a reel run low, and I had to swap brands and colour mid-print, and the result was seamless and surprisingly clean. I later added the enclosure, but continued with single filament feed to finish the other large parts. And I can say with complete honesty, the ARCO impressed me again. It delivered the quality I was looking for and helped me confidently proof my STLs. Unfortunately, in use, both slicers had their bugs. Despite selecting English as my chosen language, the ARCO variant displayed some information in Chinese. This meant I couldn't be sure how to properly use the slicer. So whether it has features like time-lapse recording, I truly don't know. I was able to send sliced files via Wi-Fi to the printer and achieve the results I wanted, but only with ARCO, not Pixup, which seemed to keep forgetting which printer it was connected to. When it came to multicolour work, neither slicer made it clear how to properly assign colours. Repeated failures soon made me realise that one of the filament feeders didn't work properly and caused repeated timeout issues. This meant circumventing that feeder altogether. I was able to produce and successfully print basic 3D colour models like this striped benchy, which came out great, proving that the hardware actually does its job. However, if I tried something more complex, like this Iron Man wiggle toy, the printer seemed to forget all about colours and stuck with a single feed. Not really the multicolour model I was looking for. So, what do I think of the Phrozen ARCO FDM printer? Quite honestly, it's hard not to be impressed. Phrozen has genuinely built a contender here, and based solely on the hardware, the ARCO actually has the potential to grow into a competitor for printers like the Bamboo P1S, and with enough refinement, even the X1C. The fixed bed, the rigid CoreXY frame, the high flow extrusion setup, and the heat pipe cooling all put it on a very strong technical footing. And it's clear that Chroma Kit was planned from day one, rather than being a bolted on last minute extra. Unfortunately, at the time of this review, this excellent kit was let down by the somewhat bargain basement software adaptations. At this stage of release, I really shouldn't be seeing a mixture of languages within the slicer software preventing me from understanding basic use. And this issue, at least, is blatantly obvious, unlike the other connectivity and colour controlling issues that have plagued this review. When it comes to price, Phrozen are certainly hoping that folks will be wowed by the heavy hardware options they've gone for. And that's a brave choice for their first FDM venture. Don't get me wrong, Phrozen have basically built a Rolls Royce for us here. Unfortunately, they forgot to attach a steering wheel. Luckily, this isn't all terrible news. There's hope for a very sparkly silver lining. Phrozen simply need to finish the job they've started by ironing out software and firmware bugs. And they could easily do this, they really could. And personally, I desperately hope that they do. I for one am really looking forward to seeing the full potential of this very, very capable bit of kit. And that's it for this review, guys. I hope you've enjoyed it. So take care and thanks for watching.